Project with you, and my special guest for this Sunday morning is Kristen Wright, who I can't believe to say is actually Miss World Australia. Kristen, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Long time no see. It's been a while since we've caught up, and to have this title, compared to when we last spoke, it feels absolutely surreal, and I'm incredibly honoured.
And I take you back to the moment. Now, I don't quite know with Miss World Australia. Do they call first runner up or do they call the winner? But that moment when you found out that you were Miss World Australia, what ran through your head?
I hesitated. I thought that they'd made a mistake, and I think in all of the videos and all of the photos, the only logical thing I could do was rush my hands to my face, because out of excitement, it was like my jaw couldn't slam shut. And I thought mentally, it's going to be better if I'm covering my mouth rather than having them open in every photo. But it was a moment of surreal, almost relief and excitement, because this year, obviously, the competition has been stretched out nearly 3 years, and to kind of have it conclude on a positive note with the title, it was unbelievable, if I'm being honest. So I think I was in most shock. In my head, you always try and plan for these big moments to be, composed and elegant, and well, that just went out the window as soon as my name was called. So I first in the crowd found my family, and they were all crying, and
Oh, good.
couldn't make eye contact much longer after I noticed that. But overall, it was just that surreal kind of euphoric, semi went numb feeling.
Sounds terrible when you describe it that way. I mean, you've done a lot of competing in your life, and we've all had our ups and downs. Can you compare it to the feeling of anything else, or was it just in its own league?
I think because I knew why I was competing, come the end night, I didn't honestly really think about the result, whether I won or I didn't, because throughout the whole competing process, I have met so many incredible people, and I was able to launch meaningful projects through the process. So the final night, let alone the final week, was kind of, I was able to enjoy it because there wasn't that pressure I had on myself. So in a sense, I guess it was a different competition to what I'm used to in regards to sporting competitions,
Mm.
because I didn't feel that pressure I had put myself. I didn't feel that pressure I had put on myself because of the foundations I implemented leading up to the final week. So I would say then it was completely different.
Well, let's just dig into that a little bit, because a lot of girls, when they compete, they have nerves left, right, and center, whether it's the on-stage component, the interview component.
Yeah.
And you said you were actually able to enjoy the process, which I'm sure a lot of women and maybe even men watching would love to know how you did that. So was it, I think you mentioned it, but was it mainly because you had put so much hard work and preparation into it that when it came to the actual competition week, you were just like, well, I've done everything I can, so that's it?
I think for me, something that I've learned over the years is when you set long-term goals, it's to shift your focus so you're not just focusing on the conclusion of that goal, but beyond it. And so during my work and when I was preparing, everything that I prepared, I knew I could carry on beyond the final night, regardless of
Mm.
what happened. I think in regards to being in the moment and enjoying it, I tell myself, and I've done it for years, when I'm backstage or about to go out for a sporting competition or anything that gets my nerves a bit, get my nerves rushing, I tell myself, you don't have time to be nervous because this is going to be over before you know it. So
Mm.
make the most of it. So it shifts that mindset to, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, to hang on a minute, this is going to be over before I know it. And I know I'm going to be mad at myself if I can't say that I enjoyed the process. It's that looking ahead, but being able to reflect before you even do it, so to speak.
I think it takes quite a mentally strong person to do that, though, because I think we can all go logic. We can all tell ourselves logically, "I should enjoy this moment because it will be over soon," and then some people just go, "I'm telling myself that, but I still feel nervous." So, do you think your sporting background with gymnastics and things like that? Do you think the sporting background dealing with that pressure helped dealing with the pressure in the pageant?
I think the the pit in your stomach of nerves doesn't go away when you tell yourself that. But
Mm,
what it helps you realize is that you've gotten yourself there and you've done this on your own, and it would be a waste of the work that you've done throughout the process if you were to let nerves get the best of you on the final night. It's almost that mindset of not wanting to waste that moment. I definitely feel that my background as a gymnast and being able to kind of calm my nerves has helped me in these situations. But I think it's more so just growing up, if I'm being honest, and maturing and realizing
mm.
that I'm going to be more mad at myself at the end of it if I let the nerves get the best of me and I can't perform to the best of my ability, essentially.
What does it look like when you get mad at yourself? Is it? Do you start yelling at yourself? Do you stomp your feet? Is it an internal monologue? What happens?
Well, thankfully, because of this mindset, I haven't been mad at myself in a while. But look, I live by the saying everything happens with reason. I don't like to say everything happens for a reason, because I
Mm.
see it as that we're putting an external blame on something else, whereas we take part in kind of everything that happens in our lives often. Um, and I think that you know I know future Kristen would have been frustrated if I wasted that one moment that I had worked so hard for. And I think it's just a lot about mindfulness training and shifting that mindset to being content with who you are and maintaining your individuality in a high pressure environment, and also realizing that the process of preparation, you can do this, you can do this.
Mm.
And I think it takes time, but the mindfulness element of that mental preparation is huge.
And if you can remember this far back, what was the actual competition days or competition week like? What were your favorite moments of actually being there? Because as we
Yeah.
both know, it's been a while coming, the actual competition, because it's been basically like Olympic preparation, 3, 4 years because of COVID.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
when you were there, what was the competition like? What parts did you enjoy the most?
I think because it was stretched out over a week, the marathon mindset that we'd all come to terms with for having to prepare for so long really helped all of us during the week. Um, I actually lost my voice on day one, which
Oh,
was
good.
interviews.
What? How did you already lose it on day one?
I think so. I flew up on this. So the day one of Miss World Australia was a Tuesday. I flew up on the Saturday. I took my little sister to Movie World on the Sunday, and I think I may have screamed out my vocal cords, so to speak. So like Monday I was okay, and then Tuesday morning it was nearly gone. So I reserved it as much as I could. I was up every day at 4:30. I wouldn't get back to my apartment till 7. Day one was probably the biggest day because we had interviews, the top model challenge, as well as the Skin O2 welcome party in the evening.
Wow.
Wednesday was similar, but we had the fitness challenge instead, and a lot of rehearsals and some photo shoots. And Thursday was filming our show reels with Pride Productions, as well as more rehearsals, and then doing some shoots with Novo as well. And then come Friday, it was rehearsals, getting ready, and then the final evening. So it was a jam-packed week. I wouldn't have had it any other way, though. I think it was an amazing experience, and it allowed us to show our true personalities over a longer period of time than having just a pageant on one day. And I think that it was amazing to finally meet these girls who I've talked to over Zoom and over Instagram for the last 3 years, and to be face to face, that moment before our interviews when we were all chatting was quite surreal. It didn't feel real that we were finally meeting. So it was a long week, but I think that we were all prepared due to the length of the competition prior.
How did interview go for you without a voice? Did you just lean in and whisper, and how did that work out?
I was really frustrated because I was excited to talk, but I think me losing my voice, some may have perceived it as nerves, and I wasn't nervous because the judges on the judging panel, we had known them. We have gotten to know them over the last 2 years, and it was an odd experience, I must say. I didn't expect it. We all got pulled in 3 at a time, so we weren't alone in our interviews.
Okay.
And we kind of had to introduce ourselves, and then we got given quite a lengthy question, asked to go away and reflect on it before answering it. So it wasn't an interview it wasn't as casual as I expected it to be in terms of a conversation. However, I think it was really lovely having the support of other girls sitting next to you while you're introducing yourself, let alone talking to the judges.
That sounds a little bit different. So did that sort of play into your wheelhouse a little bit? If it was a little bit unexpected and you got to do something a little bit different,
I think
pressure again.
Yeah, well, I guess my biggest thing was because we had like a written down question that we were allowed to go away and think about before answering. It was more so now because I've had a chance to look at the question, trying not to sound too rehearsed when delivering my answer, which is very important in an interview scenario. However, it's really hard to retrain your brain after you read a question to not practice what you're going to answer. So that definitely threw a spanner in the works, and my voice, by the end of interviews, I didn't talk for 24 hours, which the girls were so kind. We were writing down on notes, and I was expressful, but I wasn't communicating as such. But in saying that, I think it may have been a blessing. It allowed me to sit back and observe and really take in my surroundings as well.
Okay, so just to clarify, the girls didn't think you were ignoring them when they asked you a question. You said nothing back. What? So were you holding up like pieces of paper or messaging yourself and then showing? What? Oh, God, I don't. There's a new series on Amazon Prime. Well, it's newish, called The Boys, and I don't know if you've seen it, but one of the characters in there is actually mute. She can't speak. And part of her character development arc is that she begins to communicate, but it's by typing on the phone. So I have this vision in my head that that's you during pageant week. Someone asks you a question and you bring out your phone and then you're like,
yeah.
Is that what you were doing?
It was, oh my gosh. I just can't believe it happened. And I was so frustrated because I was like, no, not this week, next week or the week before. But the girls are absolutely lovely in the sense helping me communicate. I was just quiet though. I sat and I smiled and I facially expressed myself to others and let them know like I am listening and I'm content. But I think it's why I started my interview series, the Mindfulness Mondays, and I'm sure you experience it as well. When you get the opportunity to just sit and listen, it gives you this whole perspective of someone else. And I think that I had that with a few of the girls because they were being quite open to me because I was sitting but listening with purpose and understanding what they were actually saying rather than just small talk. I think it created some beautiful bonds ahead of the final night.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that because, as you know, I worked in an all-girls school, and one of the things I would always impress on the girls is that, you got to find your voice, you have to find your voice, you have to find your voice. And I'm like, yes, that's half the equation. But the other half, and just as important, if not more so, is actually learning how to listen. And sometimes maybe losing your voice, as you said, in a way was a blessing because you didn't have any choice because you couldn't say anything. So when did your voice come back? Surely you weren't the whole pageant week without your voice, were you?
No, it started to come back Thursday, thank goodness, because I had to film my Pride Productions little intro. So, but in it you can hear me. I haven't posted it yet because I'm gasping for air in between sentences, and I can pick up on it straight away. Those who may not know my usual voice might not. And then Friday, I was very quiet in the morning, just kept drinking water, staying hydrated, and then thank goodness by the final night, it was back in full pelt.
You just can't do anything the easy way, can you, Kristen?
Oh no,
everything,
I can't.
everything just has to go that little bit further, that little bit more demanding.
Yeah.
Let's look at some questions here. So this lovely young lady I will be speaking to at 1 p.m. this afternoon. I have 3 interviews today. So Brooke, who is Miss Global Australia and Miss Global, was it second runner-up, Brooke, internationally? Sorry if I get that wrong. I can't think. It's Sunday morning. But she's saying, looking gorgeous, Kristen, so beautifully spoken, just like a queen. And then the question on everyone's lips when it comes to pageants, have you prepared any outfits yet for internationals? Now, just before you answer that, do you want to tell us when internationals is, where it is, and then to Brooke's question?
I haven't been told yet the location or the date for the international competition as of yet. I expect we will know in the next coming weeks. However, I am preparing outfits like I did for Nationals Week. Approaching Nationals Week as an example, I prepared everything that I possibly could so that they were the last things that I was concerning my mind with, and I could focus on being present, the questions I was going to be asked, as well as being in the moment. And so I have started my international book. Basically, it has just a spreadsheet of all the outfits I want to wear with the accessories, how I'm going to have my hair, my makeup, so that come each day I can just literally pull it out. It's all good to go. I have some outfits that I'm working on with my sponsor, Morvareeds, who sponsored my gown, as well as the dress I wore to the Skin O2 party during Nationals Week. They are an incredible company. They are Victorian based and they're a family, originally from Azerbaijan, before they moved out to Australia. Yeah, I'm actually getting to go to the daughter's wedding at the end of this month. The family, the bond we've made has just been incredible, and they stock some really beautiful designers. So we're looking at some outfits, and it is a little bit hard to plan outfits without knowing the climate of the place. And I also try to plan my outfits based on the scenery and the architecture of where I go as well, so that with photos it brings out the best elements of each place that we travel to.
And remind me, World International is typically, is it 3 weeks long? It's not a short pageant. It's weeks, right?
Yeah. I think it's 3 or 4 weeks before the final evening. We get to explore the country, we get to go to charity events and really, I guess, advertise where we are, but also get to know each other over a longer period of time. And Julia Morley, I'm sure, will get to know all of us over that period as well before the final evening. And all the fast tracks are kind of in between those weeks, I imagine, as well.
Well, I'm going to suggest you don't lose your voice this time, Kristen, before competing, because you got 4 weeks overseas. So maybe don't go to a theme park and scream your lungs out first. Top tip right there. Now, Emily Egan, who I just interviewed the other weekend, is Miss Galaxy Australia. Hi, Kristen. Good luck at internationals. We love your Educate Resuscitate campaign. What will you be getting up to in the coming months? Good question. Love from Ms. and Ms. Galaxy Australia who are watching. Oh, hello, Ms. Galaxy Australia as well. We love you. So that's a good question because I was going to ask you that as well. Thank you, Emily. You should do the interviewing for me. What will you be getting up to in the coming months? And maybe before you answer that, what were you up to before? Because not everyone will know. And I imagine a lot of what you will be getting up to will be a continuation of what you already started.
Definitely. And as I said before, talking about the competition, everything that I worked towards leading up to the final evening, I put in place so that I could continue it beyond, regardless of what was going to happen. My Educate Resuscitate project is, for those who don't know, something very close to my heart. It's dedicated to a dear loved one of mine who passed away during a scuba diving accident. She was a really big inspiration to me during my teen years, and this project is dedicated to her. So regardless of what was going to happen at nationals, I had something that was very meaningful and close to my heart that can impact a lot of people in the most positive way. We have some school visits coming up, as well as I'll be participating on the Bush to Beach camp in October, where I'll be running my Educate Resuscitate program with the Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander children on that camp, as well as I'll be taking them snorkeling. So I am absolutely thrilled to be able to add that element to the camp, considering that a lot of these children from rural Sydney haven't seen the ocean, let alone even though it's theirs. So to be able to add that element of actually being able to see the creatures and the marine life along that coastline, I am so excited for. And I also have some charity events coming up as well to continue my support with Variety, the children's charity. So a lot happening. A lot of it, as you said before, is a continuation of the work I implemented before competing. And I think now more than ever is really critical for the goals that my project has. There was a 20% increase over this last summer of drownings across Australia wide. And for those of you who don't know, my Educate Resuscitate project orientates around sharing the importance of first aid, CPR, and water safety training amongst workplaces, schools, youth centres, and high schools in particular as well, not just primary, sorry. And so that statistic after coming out over summer is quite shocking. And also on top of that, the Royal Lifesaving predicts that at least 20% of primary school children who graduate moving on to high school don't actually know how to swim. And, you know, I think living in Australia, we're gutted by sea, we're absolutely spoilt with beautiful lakes, rivers, and oceans. And I think that doesn't get talked enough about, how many Australians can't actually swim. And I think a lot of I think that relates back to the pandemic as well, having swim schools closed due to COVID-19. It's startling and it's quite scary.
I had no idea there was a 20% increase. Was there any indication as to why that was the case? I mean, obviously you've pointed out the fact that a startling number of children can't swim. I didn't know that. I mean, I'm by no means a strong swimmer, but you don't throw me in the pool and I sink. And I remember going back when I was in school, we had mandatory, it wasn't so much fitness testing, but we had to wear our clothes and then jump in the pool and then be able to stay afloat. I think it was like 5 or 10 minutes, which seemed an eternity, and I hated it. But looking back, I can certainly see why it would be a useful skill. Was there any indication, Kristen, as to why there was such a massive increase in drownings?
The horrific floods that occurred on the East Coast definitely were included in those numbers. However, I'm going to gather it's due to COVID and is the closing of swim schools and just not keeping up with the swim fitness as well, and potentially being able to travel more and potentially go to beaches that people aren't aware of the conditions of. These are all factors that contribute to this percentage, and it's incredibly startling. And I think as well, something that this project really harps on, or I guess wants people to realize, is I think it's great that we, you know, place our kids into swim school and teach them how to swim. But the parents or the siblings aren't learning the CPR and first aid skills in case something happens. So it's one thing to be able to learn how to swim, but another to be able to handle potentially a sticky situation. And so this project is designed to target, it's a very heavy subject. So through the project, I'm hoping to make it more you know, light and fun and really educational, more so than anything. But it's a universal skill on how to save a life. And at the end of the day, that's priceless. I really hope that eventually we can start including CPR and first aid training in the high school curriculum, because teenagers, that's probably most likely the last thing that they think of. However, targeting that 14 and 15-year-old age group, if you give them a workshop that gives them something that they can put on their resume, it's also more likely and helps them get jobs. So it's
Yeah.
finding that happy balance of engaging people and intriguing people, but also reducing
Yeah.
those statistics and making a really impactful change that eventually can go worldwide.
Yeah, I second that. I would really love to see such a practical and potentially life-saving skill introduced in schools. And I don't think that's a complicated one to sort of market to the teenage crowd as being something that's really interesting, because you could save your mate's life, as we like to say in Australia, mate.
And
Save your mate's life.
God forbid you never have to use those skills.
Yeah.
It's wouldn't wish that upon anyone. And I think if you need the course as well, usually they're only about 2 hours. They're not a very
Yeah.
long course either.
Yeah.
But to have those skills, just to be in any scenario, overseas
Mm.
traveling, if you're on a remote island, it's just nice to have it in your back pocket, I guess.
Yeah, it's I've been in the situation where I've had to use those skills on a family member, no less, and I can tell you, a lot of people are like, "Oh, how would I react when I'm in a pressure situation like that?" But I can tell you, it really is automatic. Like, you just remember certain things as to what you have to do, and I can't imagine any worse feeling than something like that happening to someone you care about and not knowing what to do. I
No.
mean, for the cost of 2 hours training, right? Just knowing, at
Yeah.
least having some idea as to what to do. And you're not trying to save the person's life. The point of first aid, you're the first responder, is to keep them alive until the paramedics or the ambulance gets there.
Yeah.
So, look, I would absolutely love to see that. I would also love to see mental health first aid brought in, because I think that's a huge thing. And I did just want to ask you this, because we had such a elongated lead up into Miss World, with Miss World Australia, because of the pandemic. How difficult was it for you to kind of stay on track with your preparation? Because I can't imagine that when you're preparing for something for 3 years and it keeps getting postponed, 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 and the world looks like it's ending, especially in Melbourne, which is where you're from. How difficult was it just to keep your mind on, I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm doing this. I'm going to keep going. Like, I can't imagine it was always, you're 10 out of 10, Kristen. I got to imagine there's peaks, valleys, wild swings, right?
Yeah, and I think, look, it is that having that marathon mindset when preparing. And I think something that I learned very quickly and very early on is that it's okay to give yourself a break. When we're preparing towards goals that we're putting 110% into, I think it can get really easy into sinking into that guilty feeling if you do take a break for a day or not think about it, or not research something related to it. And I think shifting that mindset and acknowledging when you need to take a break really helped me through the preparation, and it's continuing to help me prepare for Miss World. I've been very quiet on social media since I won, and it's been nice, if I'm being honest. I've been able to reset, relax. I've been able to write down goals. I think it's incredibly important to make short-term and long-term goals, and to reset, because at the end of the day, we're all human. And I think it's so powerful if you can harness that marathon mindset and use it to your advantage, and know when your energy needs to be preserved and when you can burn 100% of it as well. So I was very lucky that mindset clicked in probably a year after. Probably the first year, I would say, that really clicked in, that I knew we were in this for the long haul, especially being in Melbourne, as you referenced. And I think for me, I was very busy with normal life stuff as well, like my dogs and basic house stuff. And, so I had that as a slight distraction because I had responsibilities other than myself as well.
Yeah. I remember during the pandemic just feeling so sorry for people in Melbourne. And for those of you maybe watching from overseas, Sydney and Melbourne, I'm from Sydney, Kristen's from Melbourne, I'm from New South Wales, Kristen's from Victoria, those are the states. There's always that little bit of a rivalry going on between our states. But I I remember when I don't know if you know Ella Denton. She was competing in Miss World Australia as well in Victoria, and there was an earthquake hit Melbourne, and I just saw Ella's story, and I'm like, I'm like, what? Like after everything, and then Dan Andrews fell downstairs. A Premier of Victoria broke vertebrae in his back, and Ella said, "It just feels like God's trying to punish us and like break off Melbourne from the rest of Australia, like literally with the earthquake." And you guys had like the longest lockdown out of any city in the world.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like now that hopefully that's in the past, how does that feel? You guys made it. I mean, that's not easy.
I think for me personally, I just kept remembering to be gracious for what I had. I had family in my
Yeah,
5K bubble, so I was able to see them for walks.
yeah,
I had a roof over my head and food on the table. And I think that at the end of the day was enough. Yes, of course, mental health and mental health issues affected all of us across Australia, not just Victoria. But I think we have a mighty heart here and we're very strong and we're very determined. And I know that I was very blessed beyond I was very blessed compared to a lot of others' situations regarding
yeah.
lockdowns. I had space. I have the beach close to me so I could walk. I wasn't in an apartment alone. I had people
Mm,
around me. So I was very thankful for my situation. And I think that
yeah.
that really helped, and just being humble and gracious for happening to be in this scenario during a pandemic. It was pure luck. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, my mindset definitely stayed on being being very like, shut your mouth, you've got a good scenario, and very, very gracious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, after making it through the craziness of the pandemic and seeing what happened in other parts of the world, I've got to say I've never been more thankful to be living in this country. I have no desire to live anywhere else. I might have had it before, taken this country for granted, but certainly not after the last few years. Kristen, I'm going to bring this up. It says life outside pageants. So
Mhm.
apart from being Miss World Australia, um, what does Kristen do?
I do a lot. So I work, I live out of home, and I am also studying. On top of that, I really, really value family time. I'm very close with my family, and I love walking. I dive a lot, and overall, I think my outside of pageant life has kind of merged because I think I was very thankful in the sense I was able to maintain my individuality and who I am as an individual whilst competing. And
Mm,
all the projects that I started, they relate back to me personally. They're not just a pageant platform, so to speak.
yeah.
And so they've kind of merged. But I am a very outdoorsy girl. For those of you who aren't super familiar with Victoria, we have our city, Melbourne, and I live down the Mornington Peninsula, so just kind of down the coastline. And we are blessed here with a lot of beautiful beaches and walks and forests, and in Melbourne as well. Currently, we're having an amazing snow season. So it's natural that I think I'm an outdoorsy person, and from a very young age, our parents have always instilled within us to have that respect for nature, especially the ocean. And so I do feel like my life has kind of merged, but I guess maintaining who I am as a person
Yeah.
and what makes my soul happy through competing is the blessing in disguise, because now it's all become one.
When you first decided to enter the crazy, crazy world of pageantry, what was the response of your loved ones, your friends, your family? Did they get it? Or did they sort of go, what? Pageantry? Why? Like, where did you fall on the spectrum?
My family is very humbling. So when I first told them, they were like, okay. That was it. That was the
Oh,
response.
okay. All right.
They are very supportive as well, I must add. So anything any of us have put our mind to, they have supported 110%. And so when I first entered as well, I didn't really understand what I was entering into. And the stretched out competition, if anything, was a really big blessing for me, because it allowed for me to really understand what Miss World Australia, let alone Miss World, is about, and to implement positive change that lasts beyond the competition. And when that clicked in, then my family were like, okay, this is exciting. They were very excited for my project, and I had a lot of support as well from the diving community, which was, I didn't realize people were watching, that I just didn't realize how many people were watching through my journey. And to have them support me as well was just the icing on the cake.
Sounds like they've gotten used to the idea of you being a pageant queen now. Um, so what did your parents say when you told them? They said, what, they just like, oh, okay.
We're like, okay, yeah, because I think pageants in Australia, as everyone kind of knows, they're not really talked about, so to speak. So the integral details of what actually it takes to compete, let alone what each pageant represents, isn't discussed as often as, say, overseas.
Yeah.
And I think that they definitely knew opportunities would arise even through the competing process. But I think that they realized I was giving it 110% when the lockdown hit, and I was trying to find any other way to fundraise and raise awareness for various causes, as well as my interview series and then my project. And I think that's when they realized that I was trying to make the most of it and lay those foundations, just in case, if I didn't win, I still had so much to carry on with. They always know I'm one to kind of make backup plans for myself and a safety net.
That's a very smart thing to do. All right, just before we move to the close, so if you would like to follow Kristen, it's on Kristen A. Wright. This is when you were covering your mouth, was it? Because your jaw, as you said, had stopped functioning.
Oh my gosh, I was in utter shock, and I was like, the photos. I was like, we need to cover it.
I can't believe you had. It doesn't surprise me, but not many people would have the presence of mind in that moment to go, "Oh my god, the photos!" I think most people would just be like, "Huh? Like what? What's my name again?" So
Yeah.
I love these photos. I just love seeing all the emotion, and then obviously Sarah, who's behind your previous queen, putting the crown on you. Sarah, she's quite tall, right? I remember standing next to Sarah at the last, like she's about as tall as I am.
Yeah, the three ladies who were there handing out the sashes, as well as Sarah, including Sarah, sorry, with the crown. I felt so small, and I'm about 5'9" in heels, and to stand next to those three with heels on, I think they were about a good foot taller than me. So I have not felt that small in a very long time.
Oh, I'm very glad whenever I go to a pageant in person that I'm as tall as I am, because otherwise I'd get a crick in my neck from looking up. Although I gotta say, with Sarah, it's pretty close to the case anyway. Kristen, just before we move to the final 10 questions, anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Not just my family, but my workplace, my partner Bailey, as well as my best friends Rebecca Watson and Georgia. I have so much love around me and so much positive energy, and I will be forever grateful for their ongoing support for all of my crazy ideas. And I wouldn't be where I am today without all of their influence. And I think that's something I realized as well in all the pivotal moments of my life over the years. I've had such love and support surrounding me from my friends and family, but also I've always had very strong female role models in those pivotal moments. And I will be forever grateful for every single one of them. And this is for them.
Beautiful. Just before the final 10, I need to ask you 2 questions. Vegemite, yes or no?
Yes. Of course, but minimal.
Okay, I can deal with that. Yes, but minimal. And second question, coffee or tea?
¿Por qué no los dos? You know, like off the taco ad, why don't I
That's
both?
such a cop-out. Come on.
I definitely, I love coffee. I love the smell. I love the aromatics. I love the taste. So I'm a big coffee drinker for sure.
How does Miss World Australia take her coffee?
Oat milk, flat white, one sugar, preferably brown if they have it, because it creates like a caramel kind of taste. But I can have all milks, but I just find I feel better on oat milk. I think we're all, yeah. I've just become an oat milk lover, I guess.
You're such a Melburnian. You're so,
Yeah.
you know, oh, the peasants will have normal milk, but for me, oat milk. I will say, though, I do think Melbourne has better coffee than Sydney, and Sydney's coffee
Yeah.
ain't bad. And I
Yeah.
really actually, I really love the Melbourne CBD itself, the way it's laid out. It's quite, like, I feel very, I don't know if safe is the right word, but just, you know, going for a wander along the Yarra, I love that. I find that very peaceful, and I love the environment there. Whereas Sydney, yes, we've got the Opera House and all that, but it just doesn't feel as nice to me. And now
We're,
Sydney will cancel me, and I'll have to move to Melbourne. But
we
traitor!
are very lucky, but our food and our drinks
Oh
and our
yeah,
coffee is what gets us through winter. Because, you know, during a Melbourne winter, and in our CBD, you can do something every night. It's like the city that doesn't sleep, but Australia version.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, it's been a while, but you get to go through the final 10 now. So let's get through this. Number one, what is your favorite word?
Optimism.
What is your least favorite word?
Blaming.
Question three, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
I constantly have to be working towards something. I can't sit still, and if I am in a stagnant mode, I get really antsy. So always working towards a goal is what really, really excites me, and bettering myself.
What turns you off?
Stagnant.
Question five, what sound or noise do you love?
I am a big music lover, even though I am tone deaf myself. We always have to have music playing in our house, always in the car, earphones in. I think it really adds a lovely element to the day, and I think that music can impact your mood, regardless of how you're feeling. Um, you said sound I love.
Yes. And the next question will be, what sound or noise do you hate?
Um, I would have to say, gosh, I'd have to say dogs barking if I'm being honest. Dogs barking unnecessarily, not when they're alerting you that someone's here or at your door, but you know, the yappy kind.
Yes. I have been on many a rant about how my feelings on poorly trained yappy dogs,
Yeah.
believe me. Okay, we're in agreement on that one. Question seven. What superpower, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I think the superpower I would pick would be the ability of a crystal ball. And the reason why is to be able to show people that they can get through anything, and to hopefully give them a different perspective on the situations that they're thrown. I think often reflecting back, you know, we say all the time, oh, if only younger me knew where I would be today, or that I could have gotten through that. I think to have that ability and to be able to kind of give people the looking glass would be incredible. You would just have such a different mindset on every situation, knowing how strong you truly are.
Question eight. What job or occupation other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Probably journalism, because I love talking to people.
You do it well, as you do interviewing as well. So that certainly makes sense. Question 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Probably a singer. I would probably make everyone's ears bleed.
Kristen, you don't understand how this works. I let you off the hook once because you mentioned you were tone deaf. Now you're going to bring... Okay, so I now have to ask, you forced my hand, how bad is the singing?
Oh, no. I absolutely love music, and I love rhythm, but I did not get blessed with a voice, and let's keep it that way.
So I am assuming that at talent section, when you see all these people performing opera and singing pop songs, and you're like, nah, not me.
I'll support them 110% and, enjoy the music myself, especially classical and opera genres, and the skill level that is required to sing those genres is just insane. But I'll be humming.
Okay. All right. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
That everyone who I love made it there, and that I did truly make an impact on others in a positive way while I was here.
Perfect. Well, Kristen, it's been a blast catching up. Congratulations again, and thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely lovely to chat, and I hopefully one day we'll get to meet in person.
Well, yes, you're not quite as far away from me as some of my other interviewees.
No.
So, yes, I'm sure at some point we will cross paths. But I'll keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open, so if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.